Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Ideal Lawnscape Technique course, and today we have the day off because of the snow. It's actually melted quite a bit. We had about 4 inches of snow here earlier. It's been melting pretty good. So we have for you today a video on twin tube blowing. One guy, two blowers, and doing something I have yet to see on YouTube ever. I've never seen it on YouTube. And if it is, I'm not shocked because I think this technique is a smart, efficient use of equipment. Most of the videos I see out there, most guys I see blowing leaves only have a backpack blower on. And meanwhile, you have one hand that's free. So for decades, I've been using two blowers, a handheld blower and a backpack blower. And I'm going to show you some techniques as to why that's advantageous. And I'll say this, once you try it, I don't think you'll ever go back to using just a backpack blower. We're going to be looking at using two blowers for doing leaf cleanups. We're just wrapping up here in Montana the leaf cleanups, and I'll show you a picture of what's going on outside today. We've got about 4 inches of snow, 3+ inches of snow. It's melting as it's hitting the ground, but for the grass and that, it's not. So anyway, this technique for blowing is one that I don't see hardly at all. I've never seen it on YouTube, but I just hate using the word never because I know it's out there somewhere. But using two blowers, one handheld, one backpack, I think is a technique that is invaluable. And you'll notice that when I'm going along a fence line, it is very helpful to have two blowers. A couple of big improvements that you get when you're using two blowers is that you get the benefit of not getting as much backwash, if any, if you're really careful about it. You can have that handheld blower just pull your arm back and get more wind behind the main tube of your backpack blower and just not get much backwash at all. So when you come along a fence like this, you can also crisscross your tubes and create a channel that you can come back and clean up and push the leaves further away from this fence. When you come up to a corner like this right here, it's also helpful because you can clear out the corner, I think, faster with two blowers. We know this because when you have two guys blowing with backpack blowers, you have one guy clearing the fence and the other guy kind of diving into the corner and clearing it out. So it really is two guys or two blowers. You get the benefit of both blowers like you would with two guys with backpack blowers, but obviously you don't have the same amount of volume air coming out. So, but the idea that you don't get as much backwash coming in behind you, and you'll see right here, hardly any at all. I can control that by just how close or how far away that handheld blower tube is from the main tube on the backpack blower. You also get the benefit of, like you just saw going along the fence, you can crisscross the tubes so that you have one tube blowing out and one tube blowing along the fence or along the house, whatever it is, whatever structure it is that you're working with. I've also got, when you combine the two CFMs, the cubic feet per minute of air volume going out, the Echo 9010 has about 1,100, close to 1,200 CFM going out. And then you add another, I think it's, I want to say it's like 400 plus on the handheld. So I've got almost 1,500 CFM going out. And you can see right there along the house, again, crisscross the tubes, and I can make sure that, I don't have any backwash coming back towards me, and minimize the back and forth of, small bushes or flowers, things like that catch on the leaves and just kind of squirt those leaves back at you. So you'll see here in a minute, I'm going to start working this towards this picket fence that has a small gate opening. I think it's even less than 3 feet wide. So I'm pushing it into this corner to kind of contain it, and then I'm going to start working the corner and pushing it through this white picket fence gate. You'll see here in just a few minutes. But the technique is one that I found, this is a couple decades ago, and I've always used it. It's one that I think it just doubles your effectiveness, almost doubles your effectiveness when you're working with two blowers like this. And you'll see here again, I'm going to use that. Okay, now I've got the handheld blowing out the gate. It's right in front of the tube of the handheld. And so now I'm working the leaves away from the house, and the handheld is now pushing it through the gate. There's a gate. So this technique with two blowers, you get, a lot more CFM. You also get the ability to direct the wind from behind the main tube, and it's incredible how much it can move. And I don't have the camera set up to where you can see a lot of the effect of what this is doing, but you get the idea that it's moving air, and I'm directing air in ways that I can't do with just one tube. There's a lot of, when you try this, and I just encourage everybody to try it, you get something out of this that is just, you just don't go back. Now here, this is another technique. I'm going to split the fence with one tube on one side, one tube on the other side after I clear out some space for these leaves to go. So here we go. Small tube on the bottom, big tube on the back. Now, if you didn't have the handheld, you'd be squirting leaves back through the fence at you again. Okay, but because I've got a current of air going underneath the fence, virtually nothing comes back through the fence, and I've got a nice clear path basically along that picket fence on the other side. So it's just, I think it saves time. It's also taxing physically. Keep this in mind that when you use this technique, your left arm, actually your elbow, is going to feel it. And it's something that actually I do exercises come February, March, where I'll grab a 15-pound weight or a 10-pound weight. And I don't know if you're familiar with the different types of curls, but like a hammer curl, it's a vertical curl with your hand, with your wrist. And all I do is I take that 10 to 15-pound weight and I just lift my thumb basically up in the upward position and hold it, go back down, lift my thumb back in the upward position. And that's really the strength that you need to do something like this over the long haul. Doing this right away, you're going to feel it right away. So give your elbow a break, give your arm a break when you try it. But I guarantee that when you see it in the different ways that you can move that handheld blower, there are so many ways to save time and technique. As far as going into corners like this, I can have that little handheld go into the corner in a way that now the big tube is supporting and giving more current of air to the handheld blower. So it's just it's like a two-headed monster when you get into these corners, and that's where it really shines, is in a corner, because you can have that handheld. I'll take it, I'll hold it straight up and down and have a current of air going straight down into the corner of that space like that, and then use the big blower to just kind of clear it out. So the variety of things that you can do with two tubes going at the same time is phenomenal, actually. And as far as cost goes, like which one do I use? I'm an Echo guy, so I'm using Echo products. So I just get the most powerful handheld blower that they have. I just use like 400 and 450 CFM, not a big deal. And then combine that with 1100, you got something going. Something else too is that I can have the big blower going shallow on the throttle and wide open on the handheld because it doesn't push out as much air. And so I can have a situation where the main tube on the backpack blower is kind of stirring things up, and then I've got the handheld blower clearing it out at 400 whatever CFM. So it's something that I have an option. I don't have to have 1100 CFM blasting out or trying to throttle it back and trying to feather with, like the just big, massive blower. I have the option of using a much smaller blower in those situations where things are delicate, like wood chips, areas where you don't want to blow out a lot of material out of an area like that. So you have options, I think, also when it comes down to the volume of air that you're pushing out. And here's another example of where I can get around these bushes that seemingly, like, when you get in there with just one blower, you're going to get backwash on this. And you'll see I'm going to come straight down with the main tube here and blow stuff out. And you see how that support, I get this current of air behind the main tube, and it just doesn't come back at me. Okay, I'm going to go around this guy right here, and then I'm going to come right through these main branches with the main tube, and I'm going to come underneath with the handheld. And, so it's just the amazing combination of these two things is very complementary. And I don't have to go back. I don't have to dive in there with the backpack blower to get it out. Going along a shrub, you have one tube in there agitating and the other tube clearing it out. And it doesn't matter, either one. I can have the handheld in there, does a great job of just agitating, and then the big tube will blow it all out. Or vice versa, I can have the big tube in there. And the hard part is sometimes you get the big tube in there and you might be pushing stuff either further into the shrub or it's just barely coming out. But the other blower, the second blower, is what clears it all out. And it's just a combination of the two. Something else, and it's not in this video, and that is when you're in high wind situations where you're going against the wind. What I do is I use the main tube to create a current of air over the top of the lawn, and then I use the handheld blower to actually move the leaves underneath that main current of air. Because once you create a current of air over the top, it doesn't take much more to make things move with that handheld blower. So that is something that's another technique when it comes down to headwinds. Use the big CFM to really kind of hold back the wind, and use the smaller blower to just augment that current. And you get the benefit of this mass of air going over the top of the lawn with the addition of this 400 plus CFM underneath, and it's surprisingly effective because you have all of that air going in the same direction, so they both help each other out. There you have it. That's the technique for today. If you have any comments or questions, ideas that you want to add to this, please put them down in the comments below, and we'll catch you next time.